Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Jeopardy! Psychology Edition. I am Edward Titchener, and I will be hosting the competition this evening. I founded the Structuralist School of Thought, which made a lasting impact on the field of psychology. Even to this day, introspective reports are used to understand an individual's interaction with stimuli. They claim that my methods were useless and faulty at best. I believe that my lasting work has proven them all wrong, but enough about myself. Join me in witnessing this epic duel of intellect, wit, and passion between these three strong females. Allow them to introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Ladd Franklin. I earned my PhD in Logic and Mathematics in 1882, but because I'm a woman, I did not receive my degree until 1926. I taught logic and mathematics as well as psychology and philosophy. I have spent much of my life fighting for women's rights and was one of the first of two women to be elected to the American Psychological Association in 1893, along with Mary Whitten Calkins.
Hello, Titchener. My name is Margaret Floy Washburn. I am an advocate for equal educational opportunities for women, and I achieved becoming the very first woman in the United States to be awarded a doctoral degree in psychology. I'm here today to represent women psychologists in America and to advocate for my experience in animal behavior as well as sensation and perception. Finally, I'd like to express my achievement as a co-editor of the American Journal of Psychology.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Whitten Calkins. I was the first woman president of the APA, then went on to rank 12th among the 50 most important psychologists in the U.S. I have developed the paired associate technique used in the study of memory, among other significant and lasting contributions to psychology. William James fought to get me my PhD granted to me, but Harvard refused me enrollment and my degree as I am a woman. Eventually, I was granted an honorary degree from Columbia University.
But wonderful accomplishments from all of our competitors, even though they came with many obstacles. Without further ado, let's get started with Jeopardy! We will start with Mary. May I have your selection?
Behaviorism for 300.
A standard method for studying learning, introduced by Willard Small at Clark University.
What is rat maze?
That is correct, Margaret. Good for 400. 300.
Behaviorism for 400.
Thorndike believed animals to learn this simple way, through trial and error, which either stamps in or stamps out a response.
What is trial and error learning?
That is also correct, Margaret.
Behaviorism for 500.
These are reflexes that can be elicited not only by unconditioned stimuli that becomes associated with the unconditioned stimuli.
What are associated reflexes?
That is the correct response.
Behaviorism for 200.
This is the act that produced satisfaction in a given situation become associated with.
What is law of effect?
The law of effect is correct.
Behaviorism for 100.
The name of Thorndike's approach to learning based on connections between situations and responses.
What is connectionism?
Connectionism is correct, Christine.
History of psychology for 100.
This is the principal methods and philosophical issues of historical research.
What is historiography?
Correct again.
History of psychology for 200.
When a group of psychologists become associated ideologically and sometimes geographically with the leader of a movement.
What is school of thought?
School of thought is the correct response, Margaret.
History of psychology for 300.
This is the view that progress and change in scientific history are attributable to the zeitgeist, which make a culture receptive to some ideas but not others. What is this theory?
What is naturalistic theory?
Naturalistic theory is the correct theory.
History of psychology for 400.
When the acts are determined by the past events.
What is determinism?
Determinism is the correct response, Mary.
History of psychology for 400 or 500.
This is when the question of distinction between mental and physical qualities.
What is the mind-body problem?
Mind-body problem is the correct response.
Psychoanalysis for 100.
This is when behaviors that represent unconscious denials or distortions of reality, but which are adopted to protect the ego against the anxiety.
What is defense mechanism?
Defense mechanism is correct, Christine.
Psychoanalysis for 200.
Then a technique whereby dreams are analyzed for their hidden and symbolic content in order to detect unconscious conflicts.
What is dream analysis?
Dream analysis, correct.
Psychoanalysis for 300.
In Jung's system, the libido is directed inward to make a person contemplative, introspective, and resistant to external pressures.
What is introversion?
Correct, Margaret. Next selection.
Psychoanalysis for 400.
Again, in Jung's system, the reservoir of material that once was conscious but has been forgotten or suspended.
What is personal unconscious?
Personal unconscious is correct.
Psychoanalysis for 500.
Finishing the category, this movement begun by Elwood Worcester, a church rector. These were forms of talk therapy that swept through and became popular in America and predated Freud's visit to Clark University in 1909.
What is the Emmanuel movement?
The Emmanuel movement is correct.
Contributors to psychology for 100.
This person was a French physician who utilized extirpation, systematic destruction of parts of the brain to map brain functions.
Who is Pierre Florens?
Lawrence is the correct contributor. Next selection, please.
Contributors to psychology for 200.
This person was an Italian physiologist who suggested nerve impulses were electrical in nature, experimented with frogs by shocking them to initiate lifelike movements.
Who is Luigi Galvani?
Galvani is correct, Christine.
Contributors to psychology for 300.
German physiologist who studied sense organs. His research included studies of two-point threshold and just noticeable differences.
Who is Ernst Weber?
Weber is the correct one.
Contributors to psychology for 400.
This person is a German physiologist, physicist, psychophysicist, and philosopher. He established a quantitative relationship between mind and body and developed methods of psychophysics.
Who is Gustav Fechner?
Fechner is the correct contributor.
Contributors to psychology for 500.
Finishing the category, this Scottish physician known for stimulating the nerve endings of decapitated animals found that voluntary movement depends on the cerebrum and reflexive movement on the spinal cord.
Who is Marshall Hall?
Marshall Hall.
Functionalism for 100.
This is the concern with how the mind functions and how it is used by organisms to adapt to the environment.
What is functionalism?
Functionalism is correct.
Functionalism for 200.
This is the suggestion that living things change with time.
What is evolution?
Evolution is correct.
Functionalism for 300.
What was Darwin's influence on psychology?
What is focused on animal psychology and focused on the description and measurement of individual differences?
Good response, Mary. That is correct.
Functionalism for.
Who wrote the first book on comparative psychology?
Who is George John Ramones?
That's the correct response.
Functionalism for 500.
Finishing the category, who worked on mental inheritance and the individual differences in human capacities?
Who is Francis Galton?
Francis Galton, that is correct.
Structuralism for 500.
What are the criticisms of introspection?
The methods are subjective reports of the elements of consciousness.
That is a good one. That is correct. Moving on.
Structuralism for 100.
All right. These are tests of motor skills and sensory capacities. Intelligence tests use more complex measures of mental ability.
What are mental tests?
Mental tests are the correct type of test.
Structuralism for 200.
This is a technique for studying animal behavior by assuming that the same mental processes that occur in an observer's mind also occur in the animal's mind.
What is introspection by analogy?
Margaret, that is correct.
Structuralism for 300.
This is the use of observational reports about animal behavior.
What is the anecdotal method?
Anecdotal method is correct. And I guess
Structuralism for 400.
finishing the board, this is when this is confusing the mental process under study with the stimulus or object being observed.
What is stimulus error?
Stimulus error is correct, and Christine had the last correct answer of the day. Unfortunately, that is not going to be enough to win her the game today. We just want to thank everybody for coming out. Mary's going to go ahead and win with a score of 4,200.